Remember the white kid getting adopted by a black family, Carrie and James? And that kid was basically the devil, killing a bunch of people? Well, he's back and even more psycho. Dylan was shot by the popo, but survived and ended up in a psychiatric hospital where he gets bullied a lot. He even dreams about getting his revenge on his bully, but methodically thinks about the long game. He gets evaluated by Dr. Keller, who praises Dylan for his improvements. But despite the boy's good record, he recommends that he stay for another 3 months.
This is bullshit!
Dylan loses it and attacks the doc while he isn't looking. Then he steals his access card before setting the office on fire. The fire looks fake AF. He swipes a taser from a guard and stuns him with it. Then he goes straight to a big back bully's cell and fatally takes him out. With the alarm blaring, he tases the staff and escapes. Meanwhile, Detective Dante suffers from PTSD caused by the shootout. He wakes up panting as memories of that day flash across his mind. Apparently, when all the police officers fired at the white kid, they all missed. He touches the bullet wound he got from Dylan and wonders if he'll continue living in fear. But his wife calms him down with her kitty. Somewhere else in the city, Caleb Andrews, a foreign father of 2 boys, Kel and Mason, takes them to play baseball. His wife, Ava, gonna make me diabetic with all that cake. Unfortunately, during practice, Kel collapses and he's rushed to the hospital. When Ava arrives, she sobs for her child. Mason goes into the ward and briefly speaks to Kel, who hands him a pendant and promises to be with him always. Unfortunately, Kel dies and they have a funeral for him. Meanwhile, Detective Dante gets news of Dylan's disappearance. He had assumed that Dylan burned down with the psychiatric hospital, but another officer says that forensics was not able to locate his remains. They visit Melissa, a previous victim, who informs them that Dylan had called not only her, but James, Carrie, and Bella as well, promising to take them down. Drew Sidora didn't want to be in the sequel, so Melissa says Drew's character and family fled the country. Melissa expresses her worry, given that Dylan had already murdered her mom, but the cops assure her that they'll be on patrol and she should contact them if Dylan calls her again. Time passes, and the Andrews plan on adopting a child to help reduce the loss of Kel. After a bit of back and forth, they finalize their decision at an orphanage where they are handed Taylor as their new child. Taylor happens to be Dylan, the terror kid. This Tubi movie really doing the blind dating of adoption process. He moves in with them and acts fake AF. While the parents sign his paperwork, he checks out the house with Mason and gets excited after seeing a golf club and a shotgun hung on the wall. Mason immediately stops him from taking the gun and takes him upstairs. Mason tells him that Kel's room is off limits for everyone except his mom. The kids bond in Mason's room before the family takes Dylan to his new room. There, they love his reaction and are happy about the blind adoption process. When the family eats, Dylan decides to call Caleb Dad, and I'll call him Zaddy. Then Mason says,
Mom isn't much of a chef.
Turns out her cooking was nasty and her meatloaf goes untouched. Afterwards, the couple reassures themselves that they made the right decision in adopting Dylan. At midnight, Dylan sneaks out of his room and goes straight to Kel's to check it out. Suddenly, he hears Ava coming, so he hides behind the door where she doesn't see him. After she leaves, he goes back to his room. Weeks later, he sees Mason playing alone in the yard, so he spooks him. Mason would rather be alone, but decides to go to the park and play baseball. Dylan plays well and says,
Bet Kel never did that.
Dylan is a heifer. Back in Mason's room, Dylan tells him Ava is an amazing mom. He recalls how horrible his parents were. Mason then opens his closet and shows him a box where he keeps a limited edition baseball that was signed by Jackie Robinson. He also shows him the pendant he got from Kel, stating how important it is to him. Then Mason's aunt Denise shows up and will be spending 3 weeks with them because a dusty man had left her and emptied her bank account. She greets the boys.
Look at them pretty blue eyes looking like a little girl.
Then he catches up with Ava, who reveals Dylan has been a sweet soul and a blessing ever since he came into their lives. She says it's been hard since Kel died, but says Dylan has been helping her get better. Denise says not to think of Dylan as a replacement, saying Kel can never be replaced. Meanwhile, Detective L, who leads the other investigators, hears about Dylan being missing, so she confronts her juniors and orders them to find the boy in 1 week before he commits another murder. Only Tubi could sell that a toddler-sized kid can be such a prolific serial killer. During dinner, Mason says,
I'm glad you didn't cook today, Mom.
Ava has to be half black because that's only the reason why she can't cook. Then Denise teases Dylan.
Don't get your panties in a bunch.
Dylan is fuming at Denise misgendering him.
What if I said you look like a man and talk like a man?
Dylan immediately says he's just joking. Dylan, there's a scriptwriter job here for you if you want it. Later at night, Ava checks up on him, and he thanks her for accepting him into her family. She then assures him that he has a special place in her heart, and she does the signatory high five she does with Mason, proving he's now one of their own. Mason sees his mom bonding with Dylan and quickly goes to his room. That night, Dante speaks to Brenda, his wifey, over the phone and tells her how he regrets not shooting Dylan down when he had the chance. He blames himself for hesitating. At the Andrews, Ava goes to Kel's room and silently mourns him, but Dylan sees her. When she leaves, he pops out, startling her and telling her she shouldn't think about Kel anymore, now that she has him. The next day, Mason plays in the yard alone.
You're acting kind of weird, and you're pissing me off.
Mason tells him he never asked for a brother. Dylan responds,
You little shit.
He goes for the shotgun, but Denise sees him and yells at him to get down and go to his room. Dylan talks back to her rudely.
Little boy, I'm a grown-ass woman.
As he climbs the stairs, he calls her a bitch. She angrily chases him to his room, asking for an apology.
Before I gotta break my foot off in that ass.
Dylan worsens the case by threatening to deal with her.
Well, it ain't a threat, sister.
She calls him a girl and is about to use her backhand on him, but stops herself. Denise goes to call Ava, but minutes later, Dylan calls out to her for help, saying Mason had fallen, so she climbs the stairs. Dylan attacks her with a golf club, and she falls down the stairs. He rushes to Mason to call 911. Mason sees his wounded aunt. Later at the hospital, the doctor briefs the family saying Denise will live, but her condition is critical. She is not allowing any visitors. Dylan chooses to stay back with Ava, while Mason goes home with Caleb. Later that night, after the doctor checks up on Denise, Dylan found his way into the room, unplugs the life support, causing her to convulse. But thankfully, the nurses are alerted. They rush into the room and get her stabilized. Days later, the doctor informs Ava and Dylan that Denise is recovering, but her memory might be foggy when she wakes up. When Dylan gets home, he confronts Mason, asking him why he's weird, saying he thought they were brothers. Mason says they aren't brothers because Dylan is palm-colored. He says they stopped being brothers ever since he tried replacing Kel and gatekeeping his mom to himself. Dylan gets irked by his attitude, so he goes straight to Caleb and tells him about Mason, lying that Mason wished Denise would go away and that Mason wants to get them to send Dylan back. Meanwhile, Mason is watching them. Caleb hugs Dylan and assures him that they won't kick him out. His fake crying is pissing me off so bad. That night during dinner, Caleb notices Mason isn't interacting with them. Caleb offers that they go to the park to play baseball, but Mason refuses. Suddenly, Dylan blurts out a lie, saying he saw Mason enter Kel's room. Mason denies it ever happened, but his parents do not believe him, so he gets mad at them and leaves the table. After that, Dylan opens up to them about his real name being Dylan, and they agree to call him by that. The next day, Dylan goes to Mason's room to call a truce, but Mason isn't ready to deal with his white Oz, so he tells him to leave. Confused, Dylan asks him what's wrong, and Mason tells him he tried to steal his mom from him, and he saw him doing their secret handshake. Dylan tells him he deserves as much love as any other kid, but Mason chooses to gatekeep Ray J's ex to himself. Mason yells at Dylan to get out. Dylan threatens him, saying something bad will happen to him, like Denise.
And right now, you're skating on thin ice, my brother.
Mason loses it and hits him, and Dylan retaliates, leading to a fight. Caleb hears them and quickly separates the two. Later that night, Mason apologizes to his parents for fighting Dylan and tells them that Dylan has been acting strangely. At first, they think he's just jealous, but then he opens up about Dylan saying something bad will happen to him, just like Denise. His parents calm him down and assure him that they'll fix things. After he leaves their room, they decide they'll find other options for Dylan the next morning. Dylan overhears and vows to foil their plans. The following day, while Ava prepares lunch, she sees Mason's hamster in the pot. Hamster soup is diabolical. Meanwhile, Denise wakes and calls 911. She tells the officer her story and asks him to get Dylan, who tried to kill her, but the cop is from Paw Patrol and thinks it's a prank, so he hangs up the call. Left with no choice, Denise tries to contact Ava, but she ends up sending a voicemail where she warns Ava about Dylan and says she'll be coming home. Meanwhile, Mason keeps Kel's pendant in his safe as he prepares for baseball practice. As he leaves for practice, he tells his dad that Dylan doesn't belong with them, and he can't wait for them to get rid of him. Upon hearing him, Dylan goes back to take the pendant and then sees Denise walk into the house. He immediately shoots her down while telling her his name is Dylan and not Taylor. Dylan is shocked at how powerful the shotgun is. Ava hears the sound, so she goes downstairs and sees her sister dead on the floor. Dylan then points the gun at her, saying he liked her, but because she plans to send him back, he's gonna kill her. That's when she realizes he's wearing Kel's clothes. She tries to convince him to stop, but he knees her and she rushes to get away. Then he shoots her and he falls down again. When Caleb and Mason get home, they see Denise's corpse on the floor. Dylan then shoots Caleb on the shoulder and Caleb orders Mason to run. Dylan shoots at Mason but misses. The boy falling after each kickback is hilarious. Caleb then rushes at him, but Dylan grabs his wound. Still, Caleb smacks him against the wall before rushing to his bleeding wife. Once he confirms she's alive, he calls 911, and right after, Dylan tries to shoot him again, but Mason shows up and Dylan shoots at him. Dylan falls yet again. Mason beats the living crap out of him before retrieving Kel's pendant. Caleb then grabs the shotgun and tells Mason to move, but Dylan hits Mason before running away. The police show up, and by then Dylan has already escaped. Dante and his partner arrive later and learn that not only have Denise and Ava passed away, but Dylan has escaped. Damn, double homicide. Later that night, in a new neighborhood, Dylan knocks on the door of a couple and pretends he lost his parents in a recent car crash. He tells them he has nowhere to go. They pity him and take him in, and as they hug him, he smiles deviously. Lord, please, not another one of these. But at least it's a white family having to deal with this mess. What did you guys think of this one? Since it was so bad, we will just show a montage of Dylan falling down every time he shot the shotgun.
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. We got lots more of foolishness on this channel that'll have you hollering. And if you like to watch more, just click here or here.